You said, need prompt. ChatGPT said, here's a prompt you can use based on the image you uploaded. Prompt for AI image generation. A dramatic and humorous scene of a community garden being raided by officials for illegal gardening. A furious woman in a bright pink suit is shouting and pointing aggressively at the gardeners. She is the antagonist, with the name tag LD Stories on her suit. In the background, peaceful gardeners in green uniforms are picking vegetables among neat rows of tomato plants and flowers. One man in the center is holding official papers and being confronted by the woman. The setting is a lush countryside with blooming sunflowers and hills in the distance. The text, "This illegal gardening stops now," is bold at the top. Let me know if you want a version tailored for a specific platform, like DALL-E, Midjourney, etc., or want a comedic, dystopian, or serious twist. You said, 7,000-word story. ChatGPT said, to create and edit a 7,000-word story, you'll need to log into ChatGPT so you can use the ChatGPT Canvas, a collaborative writing space. Once you're logged in, I can help you build the story right there. Would you like me to outline the story or start writing the first section here in the meantime? You said, 7,000-word story. ChatGPT said, great. Here's a 7,000-word story inspired by the image you uploaded, a dramatic yet humorous dystopian tale titled, The Garden Rebellion. Chapter 1. The Crime of Cultivation. It began with a tomato. Not just any tomato, but a big, plump, sun-ripened tomato that glowed like a ruby in the hand of 10-year-old Ellis Monroe. He held it aloft in the sun, grinning with pride as his classmates oohed and awed. The garden behind Windermere Elementary School was bursting with produce. Tomatoes, peppers, marigolds, beans, and even the occasional rogue zucchini. It was beautiful. It was nourishing. And it was illegal. Because in the year 2045, under the National Order of Sanitation and Food Safety, Private G, Ellis Monroe knew he shouldn't be growing anything, especially not something as dangerous as a fruit. But there it was, nestled under a loose floorboard in the back of his family's synthetic food unit, bathed in the faint glow of a hacked grow light. Plump, red, alive. He held it carefully in his hands like it might explode. In a way, it already had. Growing real food was a crime, one of the worst under the Agricultural Compliance Code. Since the enactment of the Clean Food Act, all food had to come from the ministry. Shelf-stable, lab-made, sterile. Gardens were biohazardous relics of the past. Farming was anarchist nostalgia. But Ellis didn't care about the law. Not anymore. He had tasted a real strawberry once, smuggled in by a retired lunch monitor who mysteriously transferred the next day. Since then, he couldn't go back. Ministry food had no soul, no seeds, just instructions and empty calories. So he traded an old comic book and a solar battery to a kid in the Undercity for one precious tomato seed. Then he planted it. He had no idea it would trigger a national emergency. The knock came at 4 a.m. Sharp. Official. Ellis's heart froze. His mother rushed from the kitchen, pale and shaking. His father, who usually worked the night shift recycling protein packs, was already at the door. When he opened it, 4 figures stood outside. 2 in black ministry uniforms, 1 in a gray surveillance tech coat. And in the center, towering, pristine, furious, was Lydia Durham, Minister of Agricultural Compliance. She wore a hot pink suit like a badge of war. Her silver hair was pulled into a bun, so tight it looked bulletproof. On her lapel was the symbol of the ministry, a white square, blank, sterile, lifeless. "I smell chlorophyll," she said without greeting. Before anyone could speak, her tech agent pushed past and began scanning the house with a handheld fluoroscope. Green pulses illuminated walls. Beeps grew louder. When he reached the pantry, the D, Ellis stepped forward. "It's just a tomato." Durham wheeled around. "Just a tomato? You insolent little weed. Do you understand what you've done?" He didn't answer. She turned to her officers. "Burn the plant. Seize the soil. Sterilize the premises. And arrest the boy." His mother screamed. His father shouted. But it was no use. The law was clear. Unauthorized cultivation was considered eco-sedition. As Ellis was dragged into the black transport van, Durham stood on the front porch and addressed her drone camera. Let this be a warning to all row growers. Gardening is not a hobby. Gardening is treason. Ellis wasn't sent to prison. That would have made him a martyr. Instead, he was taken to a compliance correction facility, a sterile white box of a building filled with screens, fake food, and psychological reprogramming programs. They tried everything. Virtual simulations where plants exploded into bugs. Propaganda loops that blamed gardens for historical plagues. Artificial meals that changed flavor if Ellis spoke words like dirt or roots. He refused to bend. They're lying. He whispered every night to himself. Real food is freedom. On day 42, he got a visitor. She wore overalls, carried a bucket of compost, and walked like someone who'd never listened to a government in her life. Her name was Janice. She was the worm whisperer, and she had come to bust him out. Janice had worked as a ministry waste specialist for 12 years, long enough to know where the blind spots were and where the tunnels ran. She slipped Ellis a note rolled into a worm casings capsule. Tomorrow, North Wall, bring nothing but will. He didn't hesitate. At 2:13 a.m., Ellis slipped out of his room, crawled through the air vent, and dropped into the compost chute. The smell was